Okay, here we go with part 4 of the analysis of Orwell's Shooting an Elephant. We're starting on paragraph 8 of the 75 readings plus page 6. But I did not want to shoot the elephant. I watched him beating his bunch of grass against his knees with that preoccupied, grandmotherly air that elephants have. So comparing this poor elephant that 2,000 people want to see shot, comparing it to Grandma, of all people. Nobody can shoot Grandma. It seemed to me that it would be murder to shoot him. At that age, I was not squeamish about killing animals, but I had never shot an elephant and never wanted to. Somehow it always seems worse to kill a large animal. Besides, there was the beast's owner to be considered. Alive, the elephant was worth at least 100 pounds. Dead, he would only be worth the value of his tusks. 5 pounds possibly, but I had got to act quickly. I turned to some experienced-looking Burmans who'd been there when we arrived and asked them how the elephant had been behaving. They all said the same thing. He took no notice of you if you left him alone, but he might charge you if he went too close. Paragraph 9. It was perfectly clear to me that what I ought to do, I ought to walk up to within, say, 25 yards of the elephant and test his behavior. If he charged, I could shoot. If he took no notice of me, it would be safe to leave him until the mahout came back. But also I knew that I was going to do no such thing. I was a poor shot with a rifle, and the ground was soft mud with which one would sink at every step. If the elephant, if the elephant charged and I missed him, I should have about as much chance as a toad under a steamroller. Another simile there. But even when I was not thinking particularly of my own skin, only of the watchful yellow faces behind, for at that moment, with the crowd watching me, I was not afraid in the ordinary sense, as I would have been if I had been alone. A white man mustn't be frightened in front of natives, and so, in general, he isn't frightened. The sole thought in my mind was that if anything went wrong, those 2,000 Burmans would see me pursued, caught, trampled on, and reduced to a grinning corpse like that Indian up the hill. So, at this point, would you agree Orwell is thinking he has no way out? He is definitely under pressure. He doesn't want to kill the elephant, innocent, grandmotherly elephant right now. It'd be murder, he thinks. Of course it might be. I guess when you kill something, it is murder, technically, right? But he doesn't want to face the wrath of the 2,000 Burmans either. And if that happened, he says, it was quite probable that some of them would laugh that would never do. There was only one alternative. I shoved the cartridges into the magazine and lay down on the road to get better aim. So he's made his decision, right? We'll see. At this point, I want to give you the extra credit clue. The extra credit clue is 1984. So to get your extra 10 points, if you will, of extra credit, in the box, the one question answer box that you'll see on Blackboard, is just type in 1984 1984 and you will get your 10 points. Good luck. Get it done. And thank you for watching this video thus far, or these videos thus far. Let's go back to our story. Paragraph 10. The crowd grew very still, and a deep, low, happy sigh, as of people who see the theater curtain go up at last. Another simile. Comparing this again to a theater, a play, if you will, as of people who see the theater curtain go up, breathed from innumerable throats. They were going to have their bit of fun after all. The rifle was a beautiful German thing with crosshair sights. It's almost like it's alive, right? It's beautiful. I did not then know that in shooting an elephant one would shoot to cut an imaginary bar running from ear hole to ear hole. I ought, therefore, as the elephant was sideways on, to have aimed straight at his ear hole. Actually, I aimed several inches in front of this, thinking the brain would be further forward. When I pulled the trigger, I did not hear the bang or feel the kick. One never does when a shot goes home, but I heard the devilish roar of glee that went up from the crowd. In that instant, in too short a time, one would have thought, even for the bullet to get there, a mysterious, terrible change had come over the elephant. He neither stirred nor fell, but every line of his body had altered. He looked suddenly stricken, shrunken, immensely old, as though the frightful impact of the bullet had paralyzed him without knocking him down. At last, after what seemed a long time, it might have been 5 seconds, I dare say, He sagged flabbily to his knees. His mouth slobbered. An enormous senility seemed to have settled upon him. One could have imagined him thousands of years old. I fired again into the same spot. At the second shot he did not collapse, but climbed with desperate slowness to his feet and stood weakly upright, with legs sagging and head drooping. Orwell painting a sad picture, isn't he? I fired a third time. That was the shot that did it for him. You could see the agony of it jolt his whole body and knock the last remnant of strength from his legs. But in falling he seemed for a moment to rise, for as his hind legs collapsed beneath him he seemed to tower upward like a huge rock toppling, his trunk reaching skyward like a tree. He trumpeted for the first and only time, and then down he came, his belly towards me, with a crash that seemed to shake the ground even where I lay. One of your comprehension questions: why does Orwell take the time to depict every ounce of the shooting of the elephant here? Think about that as you write your response. Paragraph 12. I got up. The Burmans were already racing past me across the mud. It was obvious that the elephant would never rise again, but he was not dead. He was breathing very rhythmically with long, rattling gasps, his great mound of a side painfully rising and falling. His mouth was wide open. I could see far down into caverns, metaphor there, of pale pink throat. I waited a long time for him to die, but his breathing did not weaken. Finally, I fired my 2 remaining shots into the spot where I thought his heart must be. And we turn the page to page 8. The thick blood welled out of him like red velvet, another simile. But still he did not die. His body did not even jerk when the shots hit him. The tortured breathing continued without a pause. He was dying very slowly and in great agony, but in some world remote from me where not even a bullet could damage him further. I felt that I had got to put an end to that dreadful noise. It seemed dreadful to see the great beast lying there, powerless to move and yet powerless to die, and not even able to finish him. I sent back for my small rifle and poured shot after shot into his heart and down his throat, and they seemed to make no impression. The tortured gasps continued as steadily as the ticking of a clock. This is awful, isn't it? In the end, I could not stand it any longer and went away. I heard later that it took him half an hour to die. Burmans were bringing daws and baskets even before I left. Remember, daws, a certain type of cutting knife or sword. And I was told that they had stripped his body almost to the bones by the afternoon. Afterwards, of course, there were endless discussions about the shooting of the elephant. The owner was furious, but he was only an Indian and could do nothing. Besides, legally, I had done the right thing, for a mad elephant has to be killed like a mad dog if its owner fails to control it. Among the Europeans, opinion was divided. The older men said I was right. The younger men said it was a damn shame to shoot an elephant for killing a coolie, because an elephant was worth more than any damn Korangi coolie. That an elephant was worth more than a person. Pretty bad viewpoint, right? And afterwards I was very glad that the coolie had been killed. Wow, happy that a human being had died. It put me legally in the right, and it gave me a sufficient pretext for shooting the elephant. I often wondered whether any of the others grasped that I had done it solely to avoid looking a fool. Orwell obviously feels terrible about this, right? He depicts the elephant dying every step of description, every step of the way. He says he did it solely because he didn't want to look like a fool. Think about a time that you were under pressure to do something, that maybe you did it just to fit in, maybe so you wouldn't look foolish, maybe so people would like you, maybe so you wouldn't jeopardize a relationship. Think about that. That's definitely something you could write about for your under pressure essay topic that is forthcoming. The questions that you'll see on the review template. What is Orwell's opinion of the Burmese, of the British Raj? What conflict in him do these attitudes create? You should be able to answer that. What historical and political developments might the author be prefiguring in paragraph 2? There is a clue there, we discussed. What does Orwell's experience teach him about the nature of imperialism? What reasons does he give for not wanting to kill the elephants? Why do the Burmese want Orwell to kill it? Explain their motives in terms of what Orwell says about them early in the essay. What does Orwell mean when in paragraph 7 he says that a tyrant wears a mask and his face grows to fit it? How does the statement explain his reason for killing the elephant? Why does the author spend so much time narrating the death? And how is this a study in self-deception? Thank you for taking the time to view these analysis videos of George Orwell's Shooting an Elephant. I hope they were helpful, and good luck as you complete your writing prompts. See you soon.